All right, everyone, welcome to this recording of a presentation I gave at an event the previous week called The Economics of Live Sports Contribution. What I'm going to cover in this presentation is some of the trends that affect the economics of our industry, then some of the driving factors, how it influences the choice of technology for our customers, the sustainability aspects of those choices, and kind of wrap that up with some conclusions. So without further ado, we just jump into it. One of the big trends is that dominates or influences this industry is the rising cost of rights and content. As you can see from the graph to the left, rights cost globally is still increasing with a dip during Corona. And as you see on the right side, you see some of the larger deals, and costs are immensely expensive. We kind of chose to focus on some of the European rights, some of the sort of premium European rights and the rights owners in this table, and you can see. Viaplay paid $2.7 billion for the rights for Premier League for 9 countries from 2022 to 2028. So that's obviously a lot of money, and Viaplay is hard at work at monetizing those content rights across their distribution network. Now, saying these are European rights, obviously highly valuable, but if you look at the US market, rights cost even more. Amazon is basically paying $1 billion per year for the rights to Thursday Night Football from the NFL, and YouTube and Google are paying almost $2 billion for the rights for the Sunday Night Tickets, also NFL. The costs of rights and content, and particularly premium live sport, is on the rise. The other big trend is really around fans wanting new and immersive experiences, new and immersive features, and this highly influences live sports production, right? This is where production comes into play. So if you look at some of the stats from Deloitte Sports and Insight, you'll clearly see that fans want different camera angles. They want to come closer to the action, so closer to the athlete's sort of point of view. And as a pair, we actually had a really interesting project very recently together with NASCAR and AWS, where NASCAR wanted to give the trackside audience a more immersive experience. It can actually be being at the stadium and standing at the stadium. You typically have one view of the event, and it's from where you are. So NASCAR wanted to give the audience a more immersive experience, and so they worked together with a pair and AWS to basically build a solution where customers could get several camera angles. Well, they got an app basically where they could decide which camera angles to view. They could watch telemetry data, and they could tap into the different team radios. And that, of course, takes the viewer much closer to the action and gives a much more immersive experience. So that's just one example of projects that we are involved in to help content owners and production companies produce more relevant and interesting content, and essentially bring the customer closer to the action. The third trend that we see is clearly that unmanaged networks, so essentially open internet, are becoming more viable for live sports contribution, and that's you know, a lot of it is really thanks to you know, the SRT and RISC protocols and others that help improve their reliability and security of you know, using unmanaged networks for transport. Obviously, the sort of weapon of choice, or the connectivity of choice for premium events is still managed networks, where you can basically get the quality of service and reliability and security you're paying for. And as we all know, you know, satellite has become much more relevant in this context over the last few years, both because it's costly and it has other limitations, and it's vulnerable to you know, it's not as reliable, particularly based on weather and so on. But the clear trend is towards unmanaged networks, and that's really because it's highly cost efficient. It's very low cost, and the reliability and security is it's not as good as managed networks, but definitely coming up to a point where it's becoming viable for that purpose. And so, if you kind of, you know, if you bolt this together, then the cost of, like, the overall cost of delivering high value content, of delivering premium live sport, which is kind of pinnacle of high value content, at least today, you have to combine kind of the cost of the rights with the cost of producing this awesome fan experience, and the cost of connectivity. And you know, you'll see that this is an extremely you know, costly space to be in. So the cost of you know, rights production and connectivity for the average Premier League game, of which there are 200 per season, is between 8 and 9 million pounds. So this is big business. This is highly costly, and obviously the ability to help either enhance the production to win more fans and hence generate more revenue from the content you owned, or to help limit the cost of connectivity and transport, has a huge impact on the business of the customers that we're serving. Now, next, we're going to look at sort of some of the driving factors in sort of live sports economics. And I want to start with sort of the top left here, which is data and analytics, which has become hugely important as a driving factor in this industry. I think most of you know that Formula One cars, so you know, Formula One is again kind of the pinnacle of premium live sports, and a Formula One car has typically over 300 sensors. They collect over 10,000 data points per second, and over 4 terabytes of data per car per race. Now, obviously, part of that data is being used for, you know, for improving the performance in the race, but a lot of it is also being used for generating a better fan experience, as I'll get to in a few seconds. The other piece is around you know, UHD and multi-camera production. So we see a very strong inflation in the number of cameras being used, and that's also partly to, you know, improve the viewer experience and get closer to the action. So again, in a Formula One race, there can be, depending on the race, up to 200 cameras at any, you know, single point in time. For a PGA golf tournament, around 120 cameras, you know, following all the players from, you know, various angles on all the different holes, and even like a standard ATP tennis tournament, like an ATP 250 or 500, there's between 15 and 25 cameras on the main stadium, and for Grand Slams there are over 100. So there's obviously then a huge need for compression and for transport and delivery, and you know, this has big, you know, financial impact on the economics. It drives the cost up, basically. The other aspect is low latency and ultra low latency. So this is becoming more and more important as you know, viewers want to get as, you know, as close in time to the action as possible. And there's many reasons for that, but clearly for betting purposes, for example, it's really important to limit the time, and then also for applications that rely on interactivity between the content and the viewer, the end customer. This is super important. Sustainability has also become a very, very important economic factor in premium live sports. So, the likes of BBC, ITV, Sky, they all have net zero emission policies, which means that they are actively looking at the ESG performance of the vendors that they work with to help them meet their sustainability goals. So this is definitely become a very important part of buying decisions and sort of buying behavior. And I think finally, sort of the AI cloud personalization aspect of live sports economics is becoming hugely important. We don't really have time to unpack all of it, but obviously AI can be used, or is used already, and will be used even more so going forward to drive the user experience through personalization, which it's really well adapted for, but also for auto-generating content on the fly, for automating production workflows, for automatically transcribing, providing closed captioning, and basically automating and making a lot of processes in the value chain as efficient as possible. And of course, you need the cloud for AI to work efficiently, as all the data and analytics available from each race needs to be made available in real time, and combined in real time with all the data from all the other historical races to really sort of harness the capabilities of AI. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of driving factors that really influence the overall economics, making this for us a very interesting space to play in. So from that, sort of moving forward to some considerations at least around how the various customer types and particularly focusing on sports, how they choose media technology and how that kind of impacts their ESG posture. So this graph kind of shows rights value on the vertical axis, and then the complexity of the application on the horizontal axis. And clearly, tier 1 sports really belong in the high rights value, high complexity quadrant, as they will typically go for complex production or even hybrid or several production environments. They will typically use premium connectivity, satellite or fiber, hardware solutions for compression and transmission, low latency, a lot of cameras for 4K and so on and so forth. So they will typically have very complex needs to kind of deliver a premium experience, a premium fan experience, to get the strong return on their investments in rights, essentially. And on the other side, you kind of have the tier 2 and tier 3 sports, who obviously pay less for their rights, but then also have less ability to monetize that content and have less money to invest in solutions for production, delivery, compression, fan experience. And so they'll typically have less complex solutions, more sort of based on hardware and at least usually I would say much less energy efficient solutions. Now, so I think that's sort of overall on technology choice. What it means from an ESG perspective, though, is that if you look at the tier 1 sports solutions, they will typically have buying power to to buy solutions that provide the lowest possible sort of ESG, well, the best possible ESG performance, i.e. the lowest possible ESG footprint per complexity, but they will have very high complexity, which means that the overall ESG footprint, even for tier 1 sports, having the money to buy the most optimal, ESG optimal solutions is still going to be high. And if you look at tier 2 and tier 3 sports, they have less complexity, but they will typically only have the money to buy solutions that have a high ESG footprint, or low density solutions, which basically means that they have less power efficient and less spatial dense solutions, which kind of balances out their ESG performance again. So I would say in terms of overall ESG performance, if you look at the two types of customers, tier 1 sports sort of should look at reducing complexity actually to minimize their ESG footprint, while tier 2 and tier 3 sports providers should actually look to buy better solutions or buy solutions that have better ESG performance, which would typically, if we take this in a pair context, a pair really, play well in the tier 1 sports market, and so for tier 2 and tier 3 sports providers to improve their ESG posture, they should actually look to buy more a pair essentially. They should look to buy solutions with a better sort of per complexity unit ESG performance. Again, slightly repeating the ESG message you've heard before, but as you all know, we had a big win recently with a major European tier 1 telco that was essentially building out an OTT solution targeting satellite-like latency. So basically trying to work with vendors that could enable them to have an OTT solution that could compete with satellite for latency. And so at the end of the day, I believe they found a few vendors that could actually meet help them meet the latency objective. But what they were also looking for, and what this customer sort of management team was pushing for, was also to find a vendor that would help them improve their ESG performance. So they really wanted to choose the technology that could meet the requirements for latency and cost, but also a solution that met the requirements around ESG. And obviously, they went out and did some proper research comparing a pair against the leading server-based solutions in the market, and the results they came back with were absolutely staggering. So for the benchmark here is encoding 1 UHD channel. So for that, in terms of watt per channel, a pair was 168 watts, while the leading server-based solution was 1201 watts, which is like a ratio of 1 to 17, which is massive. And in terms of CO2 production, again in encoding 1 UHD channel, the ratio a pair to leading server-based vendor was 1 to 38. And the same, really outstanding sort of metrics around weight per channel, the cost of power for electronic waste, and also, as I think everyone knows and really understands, a lot of our USP at the moment, and a lot of the reason why we're winning big and winning a lot in the market today is really our spatial density and our ability to handle very high complexity in a sort of small and single footprint, which is kind of down to the left, the rack units per channel. Where for a UHT channel, we're basically 1 to 20, a factor of 20 essentially better than competition. So that's pretty amazing, yeah, definitely. I think the key source and at least one of the major reasons why we are winning big in the market today. Another example I have for this is this sort of density and versatility, and how it helps our customers and be more efficient and productive. So on the left you see the remote production trucks for the Super Bowl, lined up, these huge production trucks, doing sort of on-site production. And below that you see the Formula E remote production pods essentially. And I think the difference in scale between the two really articulates the upper picture, kind of showing the traditional way of deploying on-premise production facilities that don't really focus on doesn't really focus on density and having a single modular sort of footprint for multiple applications. And then Formula E, that we've worked extensively with, and you can see really focuses on remote production and shipping around these small pods that have a lot of capabilities implemented in a small footprint, and then obviously leverage remote production to a large extent. The other example, I know this is something we've showed before as well, but I love to sort of bring it back out. So this is for the launch of USFL, where we're basically two big US broadcasters, producing in parallel from the same event, and all the blue, I think, 12 blue flight cases were already, installed at the launch of the event to handle the 60 feeds from the event. And our customer obviously coming in afterwards with this small little box you can see at the end of the blue row, the orange box, with I believe a single X20 that essentially packs the exact same capabilities as and more compared to the 12 chassis you can see in the forefront. And obviously the guys that had already installed their equipment didn't really believe the guy that our customer that came in with the orange box under his arm, and said that was essentially had the same capabilities in a much smaller footprint compared to the other ones. So I think for us it's like an aha moment in terms of the value because you can. If you go back to this sort of previous slide on ESG, you can really sort of grasp not just the sort of the space saving, power efficiency, but also all the other things like power consumption, electronic waste, CO2, and so on. So I think that really goes to the heart of part of the ESG side of the technology choice that these players in live sport production and contribution have to make. So I think finally the ever rising cost of content rights and the fight for customers is really driving up the cost of both the cost of the rights, and is driving up the cost of producing and delivering in sort of ever improving fan experience. And this is a race that is ongoing and continuing. I think what is important and what's going to continue to be important is ESG, because ESG is in the balance there, and so because this is becoming more and more important, the market, which is our customers essentially, so the rights holders, the production companies, the telcos and broadcasters, really have to factor in ESG as part of their buying decisions, and so for us as an organization, it's going to be really important going forward to continue focusing on, of course, both delivering an amazing fan experience and making sure that we help our customers meet their ESG objectives. So with that, I thank you for listening and hope that was useful. Thank you.